Welcome to Fanpale Podcast, where we are unpacking opinions and changing destinations. I am your host, Sherley, where each week we will chat about how to rise strong out of all types of obstacles that come with relationships. Through personal life experiences and discussions ranging from infidelity, trust, forgiveness, sex, heartbreak, self-love, and so much more. I am passionate and obsessed to provide guidance to every woman to create a better life. Let's dive in, pull up a seat, make sure you're cozy, and get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn. With me, your virtual girlfriend. Welcome back to another episode of Fanpale Podcast. And today for story time, we have Dr. Debi Silber, who is the founder of the PBT, which is the Betrayal Transformation Institute, and also a holistic psychologist. Debi, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks. Really looking forward to our conversation.
Wonderful. So if you can let the listeners know who you are, what you do.
Sure. I run the PBT, Betrayal Transformation Institute, which is really the only place to heal physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually from the betrayal of a family member, partner, friend, coworker, self.
Wonderful. That's good to hear. So today you're going to share with us your story, what got you to where you are today. So I'm going to pass you the mic again and you can begin sharing your story.
Sure. It's actually my 30th year in business, and I don't think anybody says, I think I want to study betrayal. No, you study betrayal because you have to. And I started in health and then mindset and then personal development, and then I had a really painful betrayal from my family. Thought I did everything I needed to do to heal from that. And then a few years later, it happened again. This time it was my husband. Anybody who's been through it, you're shocked, you're blindsided, you're devastated. Life as you've known it is no longer. So I got him out of the house because that was the deal breaker. And I looked at the two experiences thinking, okay, well, what's similar to these two? Of course, me, but what else? And I realized boundaries were always getting crossed. I never really took my needs seriously. And I'm one of those believers that if nothing changes, nothing changes. So here I was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, a thriving business, and I decided to go back for a PhD. And it was in transpersonal psychology, the psychology of transformation and human potential, because I was changing so much, I didn't understand it. He was too, wasn't ready to look at that. And then it was time to do a study. So I studied betrayal. What holds us back? What helps us heal? And what happens to us physically, mentally, and emotionally when the people closest to us lie, cheat, and deceive? That study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changed my health, my family, my work, my life.
Very interesting. I'm assuming when you say betrayal from your husband, was it cheating?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to dive into that because I was also a victim and perpetrator when it came to cheating. So I've seen both sides. And how old? So did you have all 4 children when you found this out?
I did. Yeah, they were teenagers. And here's the thing. Betrayal really lends itself to creating an entirely new identity because you take everything you love and you leave behind everything that no longer serves because there is a complete and utter death and destruction of the old. Now, here's the thing. It can work that way for the betrayer as well because it could be absolutely the biggest heartbreak, for the person who's been betrayed. But for the betrayer, betrayal will show you who someone truly is or wake them up to who they temporarily became. I think with my husband, he woke up to the level that he did because he was the one who told our kids. And if anything is going to have you, wake up, it's having your 4 teenagers looking at you saying, "You did what to mom?" And it's losing everything that means something to you is a very big wake-up call. And it certainly was for him.
How did you find out?
Yeah, it was, it was that email no one wants to get. And it just led to the confrontation, and there was no denying it. And, it was horrible. Like anybody else who's been through it, it's absolutely horrible. And that was one of the discoveries. I'm really excited to share the discoveries with you. But it's one of those things you never expect it. You never see it coming. We've been together since 1984, and the first 20 years, and we were, everything was great. And I was just, and then, over, I guess, 20 years in, we started becoming very different. I was way in over my head with all these kids, all these dogs, and just trying to run a business. And he was busy with his, career and success, and we were sort of going our own ways, and we crashed and burned for sure. And just to close the loop on, and I'm happy to share, more, but rebuilding is always a choice. Whether you rebuild yourself and move on, that's what I did with my family, wasn't an option to rebuild with them. Or if the situation lends itself, if you're willing, if you want to, you rebuild something entirely new with the person who hurt you. And that's what we did. So not long ago, as two completely transformed people, we married each other again. New rings, new vows, new dress, and our 4 kids as our bridal party. Never in a billion years would I have ever done anything like that if I wasn't totally different, and for sure if he wasn't totally different. We crashed and burned and created something entirely new.
I totally agree with you. Like I said, I was a victim and a perpetrator in this situation of infidelity.
Mm-hmm.
And with our situation, which doesn't happen often, a child was conceived from the infidelity on his part. So I totally understand and I totally respect someone's decision. I definitely don't feel as though once a cheater is always a cheater. We are we are humans and we are imperfect. And, trauma starts from our childhood because it's what I had created in my little warped little brain of how the relationship was supposed to go. And when it didn't go that way, that's when it got hard. That's when the relationship got very challenging. So I'm going to ask you a few more questions and then we're going to dissect into the discovery part of it. So how long were you two separated when you found out? Because you said you put him out.
Yeah. I would say, this time period, and anybody who's been through it, you're barely functioning, but it was less than a year.
Okay.
Less than a year. And because here's the thing, that was the deal breaker. So my intention was, I'm just going to heal. I have no idea how I'm going to heal. Healing, not healing, it just simply isn't an option. And it was really about the kids, my clients, crash. Kids, clients, crash. That was it. I was surviving. And I'm sure I healed as quickly as I did because of the work I was doing, because of the study I was doing. I was just the guinea pig for everything the study was proving worked. And I tried it. And then I was seeing people and they were so medicated and everything else. And they were like, well, how are you doing this? And I'm thinking, I don't know. But I do remember moving through the program and having no idea how I was going to heal from this. But I remember thinking to myself, if I can heal from this, I'm taking everybody with me. It was just a knowing.
I'm taking everybody with me. They're all coming with me. I'm teaching them how. And this is going to be the interesting factor that I want to hear you share. And it's not going to be interesting for me because I can definitely understand the path that you went down. If you had told me this shit 10 years ago, I would have been like, fuck out of here, Debbie. I'm not staying. I'm walking away. I can't handle this shit. This shit is crazy. I'm gone.
Yeah.
But I can totally understand where you're coming from now, the person that I am today, the woman that I am today. So my first question is going to be, how did you start healing? And when I say how, it's based off on women who say, once a cheater, always a cheater. Where is that mindset coming from, Debbie? That is huge. And it comes from women. You don't hear men say it. Women, once he fucking cheats, I'm gone.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I was that woman years ago as well. And here's the thing. I had been through death of a loved one. I had been through disease. I was in the ICU for 11 days. Nothing was harder for me than rebuilding this very new relationship. And that was actually one of the discoveries. So we'll get into all of them. But, when you understand that people are doing the best they can based on what they have available to them at the time, that's not excusing anything. There is no excuse. There's no, someone went through trauma, so it's okay that they betray. I went through trauma as a child. That doesn't give me the green light to betray. No, it doesn't. It means they need help. And here's the thing, when there are no consequences, you're really ripping off both sides, because the person who's acting in that way doesn't have the opportunity to see what they lost. And the person who's so hurt doesn't have the opportunity to heal. But what I see so often is there's so much fear. There's so much fear that they just do all they can to try to patch it up, patch it up, patch it up. And people ask me all the time, can trust be repaired? I say no. Can it be rebuilt? Yeah. But it takes a ton of work and dedication.
I have a question for you now that you're on trust. Why do we as humans automatically 100% when we get into a relationship start trust at 100% and not allow trust to build?
I don't know if that's the case for everybody, because so many people are so hesitant to trust because they've been burned before. It all depends where they came from. I think, we want to trust. It feels good. That's what builds relationships. It's so foundational. It's what gives us that confidence to go out there and explore and everything else, knowing we have this nest of safety to return to. That's why it's so traumatizing. Think about it. The trust gives us that sense of safety and security. So now imagine the people who gave us that sense of safety and security are the very ones to shatter it. So when the person you trust the most proves untrustworthy, who do you trust? When the one you run to when other people are causing harm is the one causing the harm, where do you go? That's why it's so traumatizing.
Now, let's get into the discoveries because I'm interested in hearing. So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, so the first one was, originally I was studying betrayal and post-traumatic growth. And for those who aren't familiar, post-traumatic growth is, if you can imagine, kind of an upside of trauma. How that trauma, death of a loved one, disease, whatever, natural disaster, leaves you with a new awareness, insight, perspective you didn't have. Maybe you lose someone you love, you realize life is short, that kind of thing. But I had been through those things and I was like, no, betrayal is a very different experience. I didn't want to assume it was the same for all my study participants. So I said, if you've been through other traumas besides betrayal, is it different for you? Unanimously, they said, oh my gosh, it's so different. Here's why. Because it feels so intentional. We take it so personally. So the entire self is shattered. Rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust, and they all have to be rebuilt. So it didn't quite qualify for post-traumatic growth. It was like, yeah, you need to rebuild your life, but you also need to rebuild yourself. So I coined a new term, post-betrayal transformation. That's the complete and total rebuild of your life and yourself after an experience with betrayal. So because that betrayal is so different, and it's not to say what trauma is better or worse, they all stink. It's just that it's so different, it needed its own name. That was the first discovery. Want me to get into the second one? Okay, so the second one was that I found there's actually this collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal, it's now known as post-betrayal syndrome. So we've actually had well over 60,000 people take our post-betrayal syndrome quiz on our site to see to what extent they're struggling. A few things about that. The first thing is, we've all been taught time heals all wounds. Well, I have the proof that's not true when it comes to betrayal. There's a question on the quiz that says, is there anything else you'd like to share? And people write things like, trust was shattered 35 years ago, I'm unwilling to trust. My betrayal happened 10 years ago, feels like it happened yesterday. My betrayal happened 15 years ago, I feel gutted. So we know betrayal is not, you cannot count on time or a new person to heal it. That's the first thing. Also, every so often, I pull the stats from the quiz just to see where people land. You want me to share some?
So I have a question for you before you share the
sure.
stats, because I'm a huge believer in time does heal wounds. So you're going to have to enlighten me a little more, because for me, time did heal my wound. I'm not speaking for everybody else, but for me, in time, with different tools and different tactics that I implemented, it got better. I visually looked at things better. And also, because I was on the other side and I also cheated on him, I also saw things from a different perspective. So maybe when time heals all wounds, is it different for everyone?
Yeah, no, you're I love the clarification. What you're suggesting is you used time. During that time, you were using new tools and trying new things and making the effort to move through your experience. What I'm talking about is when you just count on time.
Gotcha.
Whole different thing. And time will not heal this. Actively moving towards healing, doing different things, absolutely. But just counting on, well, you know what, I'm just going to wait a year and I'm going to be good as new. That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely not. It doesn't work.
Gotcha. Now we're going to go
Is that
into
clear?
those results.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure. Okay. So this is men, women, just about every age group, just about every country is represented. So 78% constantly revisit their experience. 81% feel a loss of personal power. 80% are hypervigilant. 94% deal with painful triggers. The most common physical symptoms. 71% have low energy. 68% have sleep issues. 63% have extreme fatigue. So you sleep all night, you wake up, you're exhausted. 47% have weight changes. So you could sleep all, so here you can't hold food down in the beginning, and later on you may be using food for comfort. 45% have digestive issues, and that could be anything. Crohn's, IBS, diverticulitis, constipation, diarrhea, anything. The most common mental symptoms. 78% are overwhelmed. 70% are walking around in a state of disbelief. 68% are unable to focus. 64% are in shock. 62% can't concentrate. So imagine you can't concentrate. You have a gut issue. You're exhausted. You still have to work. You still have to raise your kids. That's not even the emotional ones. Emotionally, 88% experience extreme sadness. 83% are very angry. Very common to bounce back and forth between those two emotions. 82% feel hurt. 80% have anxiety. 79% are stressed. Just a few more. This is why I wrote the book Trust Again. 84% have an inability to trust. 67% prevent themselves from forming deep relationships because they're afraid of being hurt again. 82% find it hard to move forward. 90% want to move forward, but they don't know how.
These numbers are high, Debbie. You said,
I
think there was one that was under 50%.
Okay, here's what's even crazier. You said it. It's so true. You didn't hear me say one number that was 20%, 30%. Here's what's even crazier. Those numbers I just shared isn't necessarily from something that happened recently. It could be from a betrayal that happened decades ago. So imagine this. Your boyfriend or girlfriend in high school broke up with you. Your parent did something horrible 50 years ago, right? They may not even know, care, or even remember. And here we are walking around with a gut issue, exhausted, hypervigilant because of that. Because left unhealed, without actively doing things to heal. That's these stats, that's from something that could have happened all the way back then.
That's very interesting to hear. And then remember, 94% get triggers.
And those triggers can take you right down.
And triggers never go away.
They do.
You think they do? Oh, girl.
I did the research.
Okay. You got to give me a little more because I'm still even though I don't feel I will ever be at 100% healed, but I'm at a higher number. And some days are better than others. But there are certain things, depending on what trauma that may have happened in my life. Like I had an abortion when I was 17. So for a very long period of time, anytime I see a woman that was pregnant, that was a trigger for me. Now that's gone because I have children. So that trigger has gone out. So I guess you're right. Yeah, maybe triggers does go away. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. They lose their emotional charge.
Oh, that's a good way of putting it. Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't have the same charge. This is if you do the work. It doesn't have the same emotional charge. So you may still, hear that song, see that thing, see that picture, whatever it is. And they actually later on, as you do the work and as you're healing, they're almost tests showing you how far you've come. Very different experience. But that's when you do the work. If not, you can have those triggers, the whole time. And a lot of people with betrayal have PTSD symptoms. We think it's just reserved for the war vets, They hear a car backfire, they're back there wartime. It happens with betrayal too. You see a trigger, your body is right back to D-Day, Discovery Day. In your mind that's not the case. Tell that to your body. Your body's doing something else. So Very. I mean, it's
It
extreme.
is
It's
extreme.
extreme.
Okay.
And that's not even the third discovery. I'm so excited to share the
Yeah,
third
I'm
discovery.
ready.
This was my favorite one. Okay, so for me, this was the most exciting. And what we learned was while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many people do, if we're going to fully heal, and by fully heal, I mean symptoms of post betrayal syndrome, like I just shared some of those symptoms, to that whole healed, confident place of post betrayal
Mm-hmm.
transformation, we're going to move through 5 now proven predictable stages. And what's even more exciting about that is we know what happens physically, mentally, and emotionally at every stage. And we know what it takes to move from one stage to the next. Why is that good? Healing is entirely predictable.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy to share the stages if you want to
Go
hear
ahead. So for number 3, what is exactly
them.
the name of 3?
The 5 stages from betrayal to breakthrough.
5 stages from betrayal.
Yeah, and people ask me all the time, are these the 5 stages of grief?
No.
No, but grief has a very important place in healing, but it's not the 5 stages of grief. This was so crystal
Uh-huh.
clear when I was doing the research. The order doesn't change. You don't skip a stage. You sort of outgrow one as you move into the next. And when I share the stages, everybody will know exactly what stage they're in. And you, because you've done your healing, you're going to remember your journey as I share them.
Now,
Ready? Yeah.
before you go into that, very interesting. I want
Sure.
to ask you, if you didn't go through what you went through, do you think you would have even taken it this far? Because you basically continued your education, focused on
Mm-hmm.
this, you got your doctorates, focused on this particular situation, well, betrayal,
Mm-hmm.
based off of your life, Debbie. Pretty much.
Mm-hmm. You want to know the craziest part? My biggest supporter is my husband.
How did your kids feel in all this? I mean, just to keep the
Yeah.
information limited, as a mother of 4, when they found
Mm-hmm.
out that dad had betrayed mom, they were teenagers. So at
Mm-hmm.
that age, they can
Mm-hmm.
really truly, they know what cheating means. They
Mm-hmm.
understand. They
Yeah.
most likely are hurt because, you know, kids, my 2 kids, they look at us like, okay, y'all never going to leave each other. You know what I'm saying? Nothing's ever going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
My
Mm-hmm.
children were
Mm-hmm.
small. They were 5,
Mm-hmm.
6. They were very young, so they didn't quite understand. Now that
Mm-hmm.
they're older, they understand. Their sister's 7. We've all already
Mm-hmm.
embraced the situation. And your kids were teenagers. And then
Yeah.
not only that,
They were.
mom and dad got back together. How was that conversation?
Yeah. And what's so amazing now, they're all best friends. It's like they've been through war together. So there's such a deep level of trust in each other. He earned his way back with each and every one of them, and they were not easy on him.
Mm.
They weren't. I mean, I have 4 very fiery kids, and they were very honest. And I wasn't going to throw them under the bus, but I wasn't, I wasn't going to make it easy for them either. And they they saw I was really honest. I said, I don't want to burden you with this, but I'm not at my best. You're seeing mom crash, you will see mom rise. I'm just know I'm doing the best I can. I love each of you with all my heart, with every cell I have, but I'm not working at full capacity right here. And just know that. And it was we did the best we could. It was a very interesting journey. And what was even more interesting to me was when we got married again. I purposely had it where it was really just us. I didn't want friends there. There was just too much. There was too much involved
Mm-hmm.
in this. And I wanted it personal so each of the kids could write something and share it. And every one of them wrote that really about how strong I was and how much they learned and what they learned about love and strength and family and forgiveness and second chances. And they saw from him how badly someone could screw up. But when you own it, when you take full and complete responsibility, when you just go head first into righting the wrong, there's a version of you on the other side of that. that's like waiting to be birthed, you know? I mean, he took it to such an extreme. He called all my friends and apologized. I mean, he was ready to make this right.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. You know, and I wouldn't have even, I mean, he would have always been the kid's dad, but I never would have considered, you know, even being friends with him if I didn't see the most radical change. But you get to rewrite the rules and rewrite your criteria list and everything that's now important to you. And if he wasn't going to fit that, that's totally fine. I wasn't compromising.
And also what's important that our listeners also have to understand is your husband was also willing to do the work. It's not just Debi that, initiated boundaries or was, implementing tools and doing the work. It also takes the other partner to also do the work because it's going to be both of you to be walking that same path.
Well, if not, you really have nothing to work with. Like with my family, there was really nothing to work with. So that's when you heal yourself and you move on. You know, we teach something within the Institute. It's called the window of willingness. And it's how do you know if it's safe and in your best interest to heal and rebuild or heal and move on? And it's so clear when someone is willing to do the work or they're not. You know, here's an analogy. It's going to explain it really well. I look at trust like a brick wall. The only way I know of a brick wall being built is brick by brick by brick, right? Every opportunity someone has to show that they're trustworthy, that's one brick in that brick wall. Now imagine that person could have taken decades to build that wall. And in one earth-shattering series of moments, the whole thing comes tumbling down. Now, you can look at the rubble of bricks and say, I don't have the least bit of interest in watching that thing get rebuilt. Totally fine. Walk away. However, if you are willing, as the person whose trust has been shattered, as the betrayed person, that's your role. The other person has to be a really good bricklayer. And it goes up the same way it went up the first time. Brick by brick by brick. Every opportunity, they have to show that they're trustworthy. That's one brick in that brick wall. But here's what I see. I see the brick wall built. The person shatters the whole brick wall. They're not really all that interested in rebuilding it. So the person whose trust has been shattered, they're like, all right, fine, I'll build it. No. Doesn't work like that. You see, they never feel safe, they never feel valued because it's really clear that other person isn't willing to do the work.
Got it. So now this is great. We're going to go into the 5 stages. What's one?
So they're all mapped out in trust again. It's what our coaches are all certified in. It's what we teach within the Institute. Here's a distilled version right here. Stage 1 is like a setup stage. And if you can imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, what I saw with everybody, me too, was this real heavy lean on the physical and the mental, thinking and doing, and kind of neglecting or ignoring the emotional and the spiritual, feeling and being, right? So imagine a table with only 2 legs, easy for that table to topple over. That's us, right? Stage 2. By far the scariest of all of the stages. Shock, trauma, D-Day, Discovery Day. And it's the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. Right here, you've ignited the stress response. You're headed for every single stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. Your mind is in a complete state of chaos and overwhelm. You cannot wrap your mind around what you just learned. This makes no sense. And your worldview has just been shattered. Your worldview is your mental model, the rules that govern you that prevent chaos. Don't go there, trust that person. This is how life works, right? And in a moment, every rule that you've known to be real and true is no longer. The bottom truly has bottomed out on you, and a new bottom hasn't been formed yet. It's terrifying. But think about it. If the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? You grab hold of whatever you could to stay safe and stay alive. That's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. It's the most practical out of all of the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this experience? Where do I go? Who can I trust? How do I feed my kids? Here's the challenge though. Stage 3, by far, is the most common place to get stuck, and here's why. Once you figured out how to survive your experience, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma of where you just came from, we're like, whew, okay, I got this. We think it's good. And because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we don't know there's a stage 4 or a stage 5. Transformation doesn't even begin until stage 4. But because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we plant roots here. We're not supposed to, but we don't know that. And 4 things happen. The first thing is we start getting all these small self benefits. You get to be right. You get your story. You get a target for your anger. You get someone to blame, right? You don't have to do the hard work of learning to trust again. Should I trust you? Can I trust you? Forget it. I'm not trusting anybody. You get sympathy from everybody, right? So you plant deeper roots because this serves you on some level. You're not supposed to plant roots here. You don't know that. So now that you're here longer than you should be, the mind starts doing things like, well, maybe you're not all that great. Maybe you deserved it. Maybe this, maybe that. So you plant deeper roots. Again, you're not supposed to be here, but you don't know that. Now, because these are the thoughts you're thinking, this is the energy you're putting out. Like energy attracts like energy. So now you're calling situations and circumstances and relationships towards you to confirm, yep, this is where you belong. The misery loves company crowd, they come around now too. It gets worse, but I'll get you out of here. Because it feels so bad, but you don't know there's anywhere else to go. Right here, you resign yourself. You're like, this stinks, but I got to find a way to be okay with this. So right here, you start using food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, social media, keeping busy, reckless behavior, whatever it is for you, to numb, avoid, and distract yourself from this painful place. So think about this. You do this for a day, a week, a month. Now it's a habit, a year, 10 years, 20 years. Shirley, I can see someone 20 years out and say, that emotional eating you're doing, that drinking, that numbing in front of the TV, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? They say, are you crazy? It happened 20 years ago. All they did was put themselves in stage 3 and stay there. Does that make
It
sense?
definitely makes sense. And I have a question because it made me think of, and we're focusing on women primarily. Is this one of the reasons why sometimes I can see a woman, especially, I saw myself in this stage at one point. You're looking for validation and misery attracts company. And, people will tell you, well, you're good for leaving him. That's great because, he cheated on you and this is good for him. You don't need him anyway. You're good where you're at. Is this stage? And this is a big stage too, where I feel like, especially women, social media especially will put out there, make you feel as though if you stay with a man who cheats on you, it's because you don't know your worth and your value. I've heard that many times. Is this all this stage where misery loves company and you're hearing these things in social media especially, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm comfortable here. I do love myself. I do appreciate who I am. I'm not going to let no one disrespect me, so I'm going to stay right here. I'm not going to get back with him even if I wanted to. So this is all this stage, and this is what's all happening in this stage.
It's all a part of it, all a part of it. And think about it. If this becomes your group, this is what I see. The wrong support does more harm than good. We have people coming into the Institute with therapy trauma. If that therapist isn't highly skilled in betrayal, it can do a tremendous amount of damage. The wrong support. Like, for example, let's say you're like, this stinks. Let me just join some sort of support group. And here's what happens. You only belong when you're not healing. When you start healing, you're outgrowing it. So now these are your people. So what do? You sabotage yourself so you don't outgrow them. So all of these things are very common in stage 3. And what happens is that's where, and when we find a new relationship in stage 3, we're so brokenhearted, we're so hurt, and we think, oh, this new person's going to take away that pain. We're doing ourselves such a disservice. Because if you take the time to do the healing, the person you become would never attract that same level that you attracted before. But that's why people keep saying, what the heck? It's a different face, but it's the same thing. That's because, well, first of all, repeat betrayal is a sign of a clear, unhealed betrayal. And it happens over and over and over again because there is a profound lesson needing to be learned. I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm saying it's your opportunity. Whether the lesson is, you need better boundaries in place. You are lovable, worthy, and deserving. Whatever it is, until and unless you get that, you will get opportunities in the form of people to teach you. Like, look at my example. It was my family. I thought I got it. I didn't. Then it was my husband, and I was like, you know what? That's it. And for me to go back for a PhD, I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. I didn't know how I was going to manage the time. I had never done anything for myself anywhere close to that changed my entire life. You see? So once that lesson is learned, there's no reason to keep repeating it. So those repeat betrayals clearly show you there's work to do. You know, the other way we see it in relationships also is the wall goes up. We're like, nope, been there, done that. No one's getting near me again. We think that's coming from a place of strength. It's not. It's coming from fear. And all of this is very common in stage 3. You know, stage 3 is such a common place to get stuck. That's why From Hardened to Healed, my newest book, is just for stage 3. I was like, there are 5 stages, but everybody is just stuck in that stage 3. And if you're not careful, and if you're not deliberate and intentional, you'll stay there for life. You know, the worst of it happened already. You owe it to yourself to do something really good with something painful. So stage 3 just shows you that there's work to do. And unfortunately, the longer you stay there, the harder it is to leave. It becomes like a second skin. You don't even know. It's like a ratty old sweater, you know. You don't even know you have it on. And that's where you stay.
Stage 3.
Biggest crime. Because I mean, here's the thing. I didn't do anything anybody else could do. I was just, this pain was so bad. And yet I had a very powerful story. Think about it. The most important people in my life all betrayed me. I would have gotten sympathy from all kinds of people, you know. But the story you get by giving up your story, I mean, think about it. Now we're helping thousands of people heal from betrayal. There's so much good that's happening instead. It's such a better story. You know, instead of being the victim of your story, you're the hero, the heroine of your story.
It takes a lot to talk about it.
Anyway,
because Debi, you could just stand here and discuss it like, yeah, he cheated and we're back together. And this is how I'm going to teach you. You know, it's just whatever. I shouldn't say it's whatever, but you are at a point in your life right now where you can talk about it and have no shame attached to it.
Well, I'm not teaching from the wound. I'm teaching from the healing. This wasn't where I was, you know. And here's the thing: any good coach has a coach, right? And I'll never forget being in my coaching group, and it was a group of us on Zoom. You know, all the little boxes of everybody were going around. What's new with you? What's new with you? What's new with you? And it was my turn, and I was talking about the study. And my coach looks at me and he points his finger and he says, "Stop hiding behind your effing study already." And I was like, "Oh no!" And I realized, you know, it's not about me. Get out of the way. This is going to help a lot of people. And I sat my family down and I said, the story's going to be in trust again. And I thought they were going to be like, "Oh, come on, Mom." You know, they were all like, "Mom, you're going to help a lot of people." And as I said, my biggest supporter was my husband. He said, "You know, you're going to show people that people who do some really hurtful things can change." And it was terrifying. The first interview I did, I'll never forget. It was audio, and I remember saying, like, "Are you sure? You sure we're just audio?" And I'm closing my eyes and I'm clenching my fists, and I'm like, she's like, "Do you want to share? Are you okay with it?" I'm like, yeah, it's okay." And that was the first interview, and I'll tell you, I did two TedX talks, and the first one was 6 weeks after, and I'm hinting at it, but I don't even know how I did that one. But I wasn't ready to talk about it. That second TedX was one of the first times I shared it publicly. And it was, and I'm a private person, but it's not about me. I just want to help people.
That's good. I'm happy. Things like that make me so happy because women such as ourselves are rare. Survival instinct, stage 3, is real. Because we hear it all the time. Now it makes sense of why as women we get comfortable in that stage and we don't want to move out of that stage because even if you wanted to go back to try to make things work, now you're being told that you don't know your self-worth and you deserve better. But what exactly does deserve better mean? And who are you to tell me that? How do you know what is better for me? But this is what we're attracting at this stage. And then you have this part over there where you want to go away, but that's not really what you want to do. So you get stuck in that limbo. Okay, so we're going to move to stage 4.
Yeah, and just to close out on stage 3, here's the thing too. It depends why you're even considering rebuilding with this person. When it's out of fear, when it's out of lack, when it's out of, any other reason other than a bigger purpose, absolutely. Then you have a tremendous amount of work to do on self-love and things like that. But when it's something bigger, I mean, I just learned that I don't judge anybody because you really never know. But I will tell you, there were 3 groups in the study who did not heal. One of the groups, this was the group where the betrayer had very little consequences. And whether it was out of fear, financial fear, not wanting to break up a family, religious reasons, that was a big one. They did all they could to try to put it behind them, turn the other cheek. I saw 2 things with this group. 1, a further deterioration of the relationship. And 2, this group by far was the most physically ill. Your broken heart can't handle that. But they're so afraid of ending the end of the old. But the betrayal ended it. But they're so afraid of making it official. But that prevents the rebirth of the new.
Gotcha.
So you ready for stage
Yes.
4? Okay, so if you're willing to let go of the small self benefits, grieve, mourn the loss, bunch of things you need to do, you move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo what happened, but I control what I do with it. Just in that decision, you start turning down the stress response. You're not healing just yet, but at least you stop the massive damage you were causing to yourself in stages 2 and stage 3. What stage 4 is like if you've ever moved to a new house, office, condo, apartment, whatever. Your stuff's not all there. It's not quite cozy yet, but it's going to be okay. It's like that feeling where it's like, this is unfamiliar, but you know what? I'm going to make this work. This is going to be all right. But what's so interesting about stage 4 is if you were to move, you don't necessarily take everything with you. You don't take the things that don't represent what you want to be, what you want and who you want to be in that new space. And what I found was if your friends weren't there for you and like the misery loves company crowd, you don't take them with you. From stage 3 to stage 4, you've outgrown them. And people say to me all the time, what the heck, I've had these friends 10, 20, 30 years. Is it me? Yes, it is. You're undergoing a transformation. And if they don't rise, they don't come. Very common to have changes in friendships moving from stage 3 to stage 4. When you've settled into this new space, you're making it cozy, you're making it home, you move into the 5th most beautiful stage, and this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body starts to heal. Self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise, things like that. You didn't have the bandwidth for that earlier. You were surviving. Now you do. Your mind is healing. You're making new rules. You're making new boundaries based on the road you just traveled. And you have a new worldview based on your entire experience. And the 4 legs of that table, in the beginning, it was all about the physical and the mental. By this point, we're solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
I love this. Now, my question for you as we start wrapping it up is, so we're going to do 3. You're going to provide us with 2. I'm going to ask you one question because this question is huge. This question, I hear it all the time. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Why do people say that?
I think it's fear. I think they don't believe that people can actually do the work to change. And here's a saying. I'm going to give you a mantra now. I've been saying it my 30 years in business. It applies to every area of life. Ready? Yes. Easy now, hard later. Hard now, easy later. Take your pick. It's always going to be one of those 2. What most people do is opt for easy now, which only leaves hard later. And when it comes to healing from betrayal, to do the deep work to heal, if you're the betrayed, to never betray again, if you're the betrayer, you're doing hard now, easy later. And most people just don't want to do that kind of work.
I agree. It is very difficult, but I think it all stems from us. Because that was my thinking, Debbie, before I went through what I went through. I was the girl that said, oh, if you have a baby, I'm fucking gone. I'm not staying here. And years later, we're still together. Things are actually better now than they were before. Because we started this relationship at 15 and 16 years old. I look at my kids who are 14 and 15, and every day I'm like, we was stupid as hell. We ain't know what we was about to encounter.
Mm-hmm.
No, we knew nothing. We were basically just
Mm-hmm.
trying to make it work, feeding off of probably negative things that we were hearing, doing things that did not serve our relationship, unfocused. We weren't taking care of ourselves as individuals, so we definitely were not bringing joy to the relationship. I think it was more
Mm-hmm.
sexual at the beginning than anything. There was no physical, emotional, and
Mm-hmm.
spiritual. What 15 and
Mm-hmm.
16 is even
Mm-hmm.
thinking about that? 17, 18. You
Yeah.
don't start thinking about that till later.
Mm-hmm.
So I can definitely relate
Exactly.
to everything that you're saying. It connects, and it connects well with me, because it would be interesting if you were having this conversation with someone who hadn't gone through what we had went through. Do you think the
Mm-hmm.
conversation would be the same, or they'd be like, this fucking lady's crazy?
Yeah, it's very different. You know what it is people who don't get it. Well, a few things. First of all, there's judgment. You know, there could be compassion, there could be pity. Uh, People could think it's contagious. You know, they don't want to hang out with you because they don't want to take a chance and maybe it's going to happen to them. I'll never forget telling somebody who she I thought was a close friend, and she sits me down and she really wanted to help me, and she looks at me, get this real quiet moment. And she said, "I am so glad I'm not you." And I was like,
Why?
"Wow, all right." So people, because she just couldn't imagine, that happening to her, and never thought she could survive it, and just said that to me. And so people just say things, they don't get it, they just don't understand. And that's why I'll tell you, our I would say probably 90% of our certified coaches, they've been
Mm.
there, and they make the best coaches because they get
Life
it. They
experience is
get it.
huge.
Someone maybe, oh yeah, I mean, I'd rather somebody who's been through it than someone who's read 30 books
When
on
I
it.
went through to my therapist, and when I was looking for someone, that was huge. Not only did they
Mm-hmm.
have the book smarts, but they had the life
Mm-hmm.
experience to also share. And for me, of course, everyone, when they're shopping around for therapy, their selection's going to be different. But for me, that's important. Okay, that's great. You have the book smarts. What the fuck happened to you in your life? And are you comfortable talking about it with me? I need to hear shit, because to me, you're just sitting here as perfection, and you're just
Mm-hmm.
judging me. I don't feel as though you have any life experience to share, but that's me. Everyone doesn't think like me, but I
Yeah.
want life experience. I want to know you really truly understand what I'm going through, what I have done, or what has been done to me. Because if you can't speak from
Mm-hmm.
life, the book smarts is not enough for me.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I'm a psychologist, but I'm a coach first. And if someone is seeing a therapist for the same issue, and it is years and decades, that's more about, think about who that's for. Because if anything is going to act like cement to stage
Mm-hmm.
three, it's going over your story, coming out of it no better than the last 1,000 times you did it. You need to do that in the beginning. You need to ruminate, make some sense and meaning out of it, but then you marinate. That's when you're in trouble. That's when it becomes so hardwired, it's that much harder to leave.
So before we go today, what is the two pieces of advice you have to share to women out there who
Oh,
presently at this very moment are going through something? They
yeah.
just found out that their spouse just cheated on
Mm,
them. And I'm focusing on the women primarily. Not that women don't cheat, we do it too. But we're
mm-hmm,
focusing just on the women
mm-hmm.
right now who just found out that their husband betrayed them, and they feel like their world is ending and, oh my God, my life is over. What
Yeah,
two pieces of advice do you have for them?
yeah. The first thing I would say, and if you have to repeat this a million times, it's worth it. Even though it happened to you, it's not about you. You think it's about you, it's not about you. And say that until you can actually believe it. That's the first thing. And the second thing is there is a roadmap now. There are 5 stages. If you're willing, nothing stops you from moving through them. So if you find you're in stage 2 or you're in stage 3, it's a choice to stay stuck.
Absolutely. And it doesn't get any simpler than that. So, as we wrap up today, I'm just going to quickly run through those 5 stages. If I say anything incorrectly, correct me, but I did write them down.
Mm-hmm.
So stage 1 is basically like a setup stage. As Debbie said, if you have a table, 4 legs, you have 2 of them, and that is the physical and the mental. Now we're moved to stage 2 to sum it up, which is the shock stage. Is that correct, Debbie?
Mm-hmm.
Stage 3,
Yep.
which is the survival instinct stage, which is the stage that you will find most people are stuck in for the longest time, Debbie said. Then we're going to go to stage 4, which is finding and adjusting to a new normal. That is, you have an opportunity, I feel, to breathe. And it's interesting when you first start off, she said to me, you're going to remember going through all of these. And it's right. I remember going through all of these, every single one of them. Right now, I'm in stage 5, and it feels good to be in stage 5. And stage 5 goes like this. Some days I'm at 80, some days I'm at 70%, some days I'm at 90%. Healing and rebirth. It is absolutely phenomenal to be in this stage. Every stage that I went through was great, but I don't miss it. I really don't miss it at all. I like being in stage 5, and I will stay in stage 5. And few mantras one mantra she left us, and I'm going to give the word of advice. Easy now, hard later, or easy later, hard now. You pick your
Hard. It's easy now, hard later. Hard now, easy
Thank you.
later. Take
There
your
she
pick. It's
goes.
one of those
So
two.
you pick your poison. You pick your poison. And the last 2 pieces of advice she wants to leave us is, it is not about you. If you are going through an infidelity situation right now and you just found out your significant other has betrayed you, it is not about you. And your roadmap is just starting. So Debbie gave us quite a few pieces of nuggets today. You're listening to 2 women today who have been through betrayal. And of course, we use cheating as an example today, but betrayal comes in all different forms. As Debbie had said earlier, it could start from something from your childhood from years ago. We just use the example of cheating today because we both were able to speak about that from life experience. Debbie, I want to thank you so much for being a guest. I appreciate all the pieces of nuggets that you have provided with us today. And remember, listeners, to always love yourself, voice yourself, and be yourself. Until the next episode, have a great one, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Fanpale Podcast. If you want to continue the conversation or share your takeaways, I want to hear from you. Head on over to the website or join our Facebook community and comment your favorite part of the show or share your thoughts. I want to hear what you have to say. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Chat with you next week.